Savadika. Let's give a good applause for all the speakers that I had in the lineup with Pichepa, Dan, and Leon. Um, and to yourself, because we have to hit the bar after this, right? So cheer up. All right, so I'm not going to talk about too much of tech today. I have least interest in tech, but I have to work on in tech. I want to talk about people issues. I want to talk about business issues. I want to talk about how I can solve your problem. I just listen to you guys, right? So that's the idea today, and I will take in questions. Let's not. I don't want to keep it in monologue. So uh, let the questions come in, and don't hesitate to ask any questions. I might be wrong. I might be totally wrong in the answers that I'm giving, but let's discuss that. Let's see if the clicker is working. So I'm Sandeep, um, and as I said, I just listen to customers. That's my job in Tyke. I'm from Bangalore, and these are all my you know. So I love pets. I love um, cats, dogs. So I just click photos wherever I go, and if I see them, I notice them. And I love street food. So I've been to Singapore 8 to 10 times in the last 2 years, 1.5 years. Great food, and you really cannot beat any the street food here as well. And you go to any other city in India, be it Bombay, from where Leon is there, and Bangalore and Chennai, go and check out the street food. But yeah, you will have places where you have, you might not be able to eat. It might not be edible. It might be risky, but still try it out. It'll increase your immunity. Right. And yeah, I love long drives. Uh, that's it about me. And I tweet. And if you want to just scan about what Tyke is. So we are an API platform. I work for Tyke. Uh, all right. So what is today's topic? So today I just want to talk about how developers use GraphQL, why they want to use GraphQL, and what kind of solution does Tyke have in that space. That's the whole idea of the talk today. So let me keep it going. Right. The few initial slides are just talking about how GraphQL is and what's the difference what the advantages it gives against REST and some disadvantages that it has against REST. And you would know it because you are here, because you already are developers in the GraphQL. So I'll skip that. I didn't know why I had this. Underfetching, overfetching, right? So all these are problems of GraphQLs. So how can Tyke solve your GraphQL issues? So if you are a developer and you have a GraphQL API and you have a mobile app, or you have a you have a visualization, and you want to figure out the proper visualization of your schema, but the app is slowing you down, and you want to figure it out, you have a solution with Tyke, and Tyke can actually help you out. So Tyke is an API platform. Okay, so it has an API gateway. It has a dashboard which gives you the complete UI of writing your schemas and etc. So okay, let me skip this. Okay, I think I'll look at my screen much more easier. Um, okay, GraphQL benefits. I don't want to dig deep in here again. Let me take it to this slide. Okay, why am I showing this slide? Okay, so you have a bunch of GraphQL APIs, or you're not there yet. You have some REST APIs, might be just SOAP APIs. What you can actually do is you can write GraphQL schema on Tyke and actually call all these data sources. You can call REST, you can call GraphQL, you can call Kafka, you can call any data source that is lying on a different non-GraphQL API, and you can actually build your own schema on top of Tyke. And it's a low-code feature that Tyke provides you. So what kind of benefit do you get out of it? You know that REST has limitations, and you want to use GraphQL for it. And you know that Kafka is event driven data source, and you have tons of data in GraphQL, but you want to make some kind of sense out of that data, but you don't want to call all the data, you don't want to call all the fields, right? So you have that data source. So you have multiple data sources, and you can actually write simple low-code schema on Tyke. So Tyke gives a playground which lets you write that schema and call and make one single call to actually fetch different data and make sense out of it. So you can bring coherence to the data that is lying around in different platforms, different engineering teams, different ownerships, and then you can write one GraphQL schema and make one single call. So what does this benefit? It benefits you in terms of the resource that the time and effort that you have to put to writing a schema, right? And you can do other things in your life. And then the other benefit is you don't have to convince your team or the operations team, DevSecOps, the infrastructure team, saying that okay, no, we need separate servers to deploy GraphQL APIs. We need Apollo. We need that. You don't need all of these. You just need those data sources lying in those in those silos, and you can actually talk to all these silos and fetch different fields that you want with UDG. So that is called Tyke Universal Data Graph. It is just a marketing terminology, but yeah, Tyke gives you that platform, low code platform, to enable you to write low code schema and call all these data sources. All right, so that's about UDG. I'll stop now if you have any questions. Any questions? I'll show you, by the way. I have a bit of a demo. It's not a full-fledged demo. I'm just running everything locally, but I'll just show you how it looks like, what's the look and feel of a UDG, how you can actually stitch data sources, what does the platform give. And by the way, you can actually run it on cloud, which means that you don't have to install a thing on your laptop. You can run everything on cloud. It is available on cloud, and you can just sign up. And by the way, we have 5 weeks of trial period, so you can just use the 5 weeks trial period, run it, and if you don't like it, okay, no problem. If you like it, just talk to me, or just send me a DM. We can discuss more, right? So next thing about GraphQL is GraphQL security, right? So what is GraphQL security and why do we need it? So as a developer, you face issues in terms of, you pick up a call in the middle of the night because your schema has been compromised. There is a somebody, there is a DDoS attack because somebody just ran a schema with nested queries. So how do you secure it? So you know so Tyke has ways to actually get that security. So obviously the DDoS and the N plus one problem, the cyclic query problem of GraphQL, which is by its nature, it's there. We just cannot get out of it. But we have solutions that will allow you to secure your GraphQL APIs. And I'm going to show you that. So by the way, let me skip from this slide to the actual dashboard so that I can show you what I'm talking about. I hope you can see the screen. Yeah. All right. Oops. Yeah. How do I? Sorry. All right. So this is the Tyke dashboard. So when you launch Tyke on cloud or anywhere, you can just, this is what it looks like. And by the way, I'm just running everything local. So you can run on your Docker. You can run, if you run Minikube or Docker, Kubernetes, Colima, whatever your favorite flavor of cluster that you want to run on your laptop. You can run it, and it gets deployed. And all the Tyke components are written in Go, so it is pretty tiny. It's a tiny form factor, highly performant deployment, right? You can actually run K6, tons of K6 JSON files to actually run performance tests. So I do performance tests on my machine, on my Mac, so it works fine. All right, so this is what the dashboard looks like, and let's show you what is UDG and what UDG provides you. So when you create an API, in sense, if you have an API and you want to proxy that API through Tyke, you create an API in Tyke, right? So that is what it looks like. So let me configure UDG here. So the moment you click on UDG, automatically you don't really see an upstream because, as I said earlier, you have multiple data sources. So you'll have to map those data sources later on. So let me just do this. Okay, so it gives you tons of functionality. So just in one single window, you can see all of these things. Just for the simplicity, I'll switch off authentication. Not a great thing to do. All right. So this is where you actually write the schema. So it gives a bare minimum schema format for you. So it's a playground right within the environment. Let me move this a bit. Okay. So you start building your schema. You can write your mutation, your type definitions, custom definitions, whatever custom types that you have, or whatever that you want to write in terms of the schema. Just write it here, and then you have the data source. For example, I'm just going to copy a schema from another. Okay, let me give me a second. I have a schema from another API. I'm just going to just use that to show you. All right, so what did I do? I just pulled out a schema. You can create one, right? And on the right, you get to choose the data sources. So I click on different schema that it has discovered and click on whatever field that you want. And you're saying, okay, this field is from this specific data source. And here in this data source, you have, let me, give me a second. Let me expand all these things. Okay. So in the data source, you can have data sources outside of organization, which means that if you have a partner organization where you want to fetch your data from, and they're just exposing it as a REST API or or an event API from Kafka, you can actually pull that, and it is exposed, or if it is via secure internet, whatever it is, right? So you just put in that data source, that in the URL, and then if there are arguments, you can just pass in arguments with Go templating. So it allows Go templating here, so you can actually write the arguments for the values that you want to pass. So you do that, and then the rest of the APIs which you manage or your organization manages, all will come under Tyke, which means that Tyke understands, because Tyke is somewhere on your upstream, right? And Tyke listens to all those APIs that you have within your organization, within the different teams who manage different APIs, and then you can select those. So you can actually plug in APIs from a different provider, different partner, your friend's API who's running a startup and he's just building something, do it. And you can also use Tyke's, your organization's API. And then you build security, you configure you secure your APIs by enabling security within Tyke. So how do you do that? All right, so this is how you write schema for UDG, okay? Now let's skip to the GraphQL security where you can secure. So Tyke provides you, as I said here, let me show that again. So there are two things that you can see here, GraphQL and federation. So if you have data graphs, multiple subgraphs, and you want to use federation, you can use that. Or you want to just use GraphQL, you can choose that. So in one of the existing APIs that I have used GraphQL. And I will show you what I've done for security. So I have something called policies within Tyke that will just let you secure, within a click of a button. You don't have to do it's pretty easy. Anybody can do it. So what did I do is I added a policy and then mapped the policy to that API that I'm actually calling. That's it. And I want to secure that API. So how do I do it? So there are sections within, let me bring this up. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is the name of the API, country graph that I have exposed. And then if you want to reduce the depth, if you want to have unlimited query depth, limit the depth, put in the number that you want in terms of the depth that you want. And then you want to have field-based permissions, which means you have each field that you want to control. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I know that there are you have some doubts. So let me actually run the query and show you. And by the way, you actually have a playground right within, so you can actually test the playground within the API. So I have actually a schema, and I've run, enabled instance. So I filled in a query, and actually I can explore it and add any fields that I want from the Explorer. But I'm not going to do that. I have a working query, right? So I don't want to mess up now. I believe that this authorization should work. I have an API key to authorize myself. So let me run this. Yeah, it isn't the right one. Let me pick up the right one. It saved it somewhere. So this is also the playground. If you see on the URL, it is the playground. So there are two ways to see the playground. If you want to see a playground separately, you can do that. Or if you want to see within the Tyke, GUI, you can do that. So let me copy paste this. Let me run this quickly. Okay, something is messed. Give me a quick second. Let me create a key. So I'm going to create a key live and see if it works. Okay, let me see. Oops. API. playground. Oh, I know. Okay, I'm sorry. I was actually in the wrong place. Okay. All right, done. So now I just queried the API, and what did I do is I had five. If you actually see the query, see what I'm actually calling. I'm having the type country, and I'm calling continents, again calling countries, again calling continent. I'm just messing it up, right? So how do I control the depth? Now, if you see when I'm running this query, it's just taking a while, right? And I can actually go and see, what's the time it took if I am running it from Postman. But it's not a great way to do. So I want to control the depth. So I go to policies, and inside the policy that I've actually created, I just limit the depth to maybe like 4, and then or 3 or whatever it is, and then it's going to limit that for me, and it's going to throw. Let me go back here and run this. It's going to throw an error saying that, oh, again, sorry about that. Every time I have to add in yeah, I should have actually used Postman. Yeah, so it says depth limit exceeded. Now if I want to not exceed the limit, I'm just going to cut out, just reduce the number of depths that I'm actually calling, and then, and that will work. So that is one way to control. Then again, you have in policies, you have field based permissions. So if you want to control field based permissions, which means each and every field that you actually have discovered, which means type goes and, introspects the schema, picks out the fields for you, and you can actually control the field that you want have field based permissions. So which also means that the query that you're actually making for GraphQL from a client side is controlled from the client side, because that is what all you want to call, because the application is going to call that query, right? But at the same time, from the server side, you control it on the gateway by field-based permissions. So you have two levels of control, because you have built the application which actually queries only those fields, and you actually control from the gateway as to what the fields that you want to control, right? So this is how we build security. And then again, you might have multiple GraphQL APIs, and you can actually have just one policy just push the security to all those APIs. And few other things here, set per query depth limit as well, because in my earlier query I was actually calling different fields and different types, and I was calling multiple fields of all those types, right? But if you want to do a query depth, and if you want to limit the query depth for each field, you can do that as well with the policy. So there are a lot of granular controls that you can get with this platform to build security, to keep yourself in peace. So try it out. So that's how you do enable security in Tyke using Tyke. Let me see what I have next. Again, data field privacy. So this is the next thing I was talking about, the field-based permissions, right? Then, okay, one other thing. So if you had heard, if you had listened to Dan's talk, the last slide was GraphQL debugger, right? So you have to actually go and try it out, right? Because it gives you, what kind of debugging that you can actually do with the GraphQL debugger. So Tyke has similar in terms of for enterprise customers, where you can actually do open telemetry for GraphQL as well. One of my colleagues gave a talk with Dan a couple of weeks back in Singapore. His name is MK. Probably you might find him. If you're traveling there, just go and meet him. If he might normally do an event on different meetups within Singapore, and Dan knows him as well, right? So he gave a talk on open telemetry, right? So Tyke has open telemetry within the Tyke engine itself, which means the gateway itself is enabled for open telemetry. And it doesn't really matter what solution that you use. If you are using an open source solution, if you're just having Elk Stack or Jaeger, whatever it is, or Grafana, or if you're rich enough to buy New Relic licenses or Datadog licenses, you can do that as well, right? So Tyke enables you open telemetry right out of box. So why is it very important for you to really know or use OpenTelemetry because it can exactly go into the limits, the different middleware within Tyke, and show you the latency that each of those queries has caused for your GraphQL query. And if there is latency in one of the middleware where you do transformation, like was Leon talking about the jQuery. So imagine if you have jQuery and you have a request coming and your authentication is passing, your authorization is passed, right? But there is a limit in the transformation because something is messed up in the transformation. But eventually you see there is a very slow query. So using OpenTelemetry, you can actually find out exactly where is your bottleneck instead of troubleshooting and complaining the network guys, right? So use OpenTelemetry for your solution. Doesn't really matter which vendor you use, what solution you use. Start using OpenTelemetry, and there is a lot of pickup adoption of OpenTelemetry, and there are a lot of tools, a lot of free tools that you have that you can use in the OpenTelemetry space. So Tyke, is again. So by the way, Tyke API Gateway is open source. So if you want to try it out, it's a community version, and we support complete OpenTelemetry within the open source gateway as well. So it's not a paid, it's not an enterprise license or paid platform. So you can try OpenTelemetry with Tyke Gateway with all these features that I just spoke about earlier, and you're good to go. All right, so again, little bit deeper concepts of uh, just a quick time check, and if you have any questions. Okay, great. Any questions? None? Or you're bored? I hope no. All right, so yeah, convincing myself that you're not bored. Let's get into why you want to do OpenTelemetry in much more deeper level, right? So what's the context propagation in OpenTelemetry? So you go into traces within OpenTelemetry, whichever your solution that you're using, and you can actually identify not just the latency, you can actually see the query parameters. If the query parameters have failed, you can actually see the OpenTelemetry will spit out enough information to actually for you to troubleshoot and make your life better. So my idea is to just make your life better. That's the whole idea. I don't want you to use any solution specifically, right? So choose the solution that you want and makes your life better. That's what everybody should do, and it can be open source as well. There are tons of open source solutions out there where you can consume and make your lives better, right? This is again another slide which gives a little more details about the instrumentation within the OpenTelemetry. If you see the collector, so by the way, just one other information is we use OpenTelemetry collector, which means that it in your deployment, so to say, right? When you're deploying on your laptop or your VM, you have to deploy another component called OpenTelemetry collector because that's how Tyke understands it. Because the collector actually collects, it pulls the OpenTelemetry with the OTLP, right? So you need that component. But if you're running on Docker or Kubernetes, and Kubernetes you can run on Sidecar, and Docker is just another container that runs along with the Tyke stack. So that's the deployment part of it. If you actually see here, there is an app code, and you can see exactly how the OpenTelemetry collector is pulling information through OTLP from each of those OpenTelemetry API. So it could be OpenTelemetry API, and then you have the auto instrumentation, or if you have SDK, because you have OTel SDKs. So what Tyke has done is Tyke has actually used obviously the OpenTelemetry's library and built the engine so that it understands, it spits out all the API requests that gets through Tyke and gets out of it so that you can actually view, you know, use OpenTelemetry in its fullest form. And again, if you're having your own app, there are folks out there that I'm seeing. For example, Signos is somebody who's doing really good in the OpenTelemetry space. Try them out. I don't know anybody in Signos, but I see that that's a really great solution, and they have some open source capability as well. So try it out. Um, all right, so these are a little more nitty-gritty details about how, if you see here, I can't really see myself. Okay, so it's a bit small. So let me see if I can make it big. How is it? Oh, I should zoom this. I should just zoom this. Okay, thanks, man. This should be fine, right? Okay. So what do you see here, right? So each of those middlewares is what I'm talking about. So you will not just have GraphQL APIs and you say that, okay, you have a bunch of fields, you want to call those fields. No, right? You want to transform some data. You want to do some secure with authentication authorization. You have layers of middleware within a platform that you have built on your application, or a gateway like GlueMesh or Tyke or anything else, right? But OpenTelemetry will give you those middleware details: what has gone wrong, what's the latency, where are the other error fields, and you can actually use those spans to make much more sense out of actually building your application. So OpenTelemetry will give you end-to-end app visibility, which means that if you're actually writing an application for yourself and your application is the actual cause of the whole slowness of your query, then you can actually find out using OpenTelemetry, right? So, and yeah, you can use Tyke to enable OpenTelemetry with your app being in the backend, and you have your clients accessing your application as well. So I think that's it about, these are some integrations that you have with Tyke. So Tyke, again, as I said, is an open source gateway. So it has integration with pretty much all the open source tools out there, as far as I've worked, as I've seen. There are customers who do explore with different tools for Tyke integration. So that is why we have kept Tyke as open source API gateway, because it's battle tested. We have open source folks who test Tyke to its fullest extent. And also we have integration with all these open source tools, which also means that we make sure that we reduce the tool sprawl, right? We don't want you to learn new tools. We're done with too many tools that we have been using. There's so many. If you go to CNCF landscape, there are so many projects, right? Why do you have so many projects? So you can just learn one tool. You can probably just run one scripting language, and then use Tyke if you want to try that out. All right, so this is how it actually works holistically from an architecture standpoint, for where your services are lying, where the Tyke sits, and where the collector is, and where the observability tool. Again, a little bit of a high-level holistic understanding for those who want to understand the architecture of it. Again, this is also something interesting. I didn't want to run anything today because, in fact, I'm actually giving another talk about observability in a few weeks. I'll just get bored again talking about that later. So I did not want to run that demo today. So sorry about that. But I think, yeah, you can see this here. So this is the level of information you get out of Tyke's OpenTelemetry, and you can just look deeper into each of those spans, and you can go into each of those spans and find out. So imagine you have all these microseconds, and why the heck is this millisecond, right? So you know exactly where you're messing up, right? So actually, this is how I actually found out a customer issue. So the customer was yelling that, okay, we have problem with your API gateway. I said, no, your app is the problem. I just found out that I'm using OpenTelemetry, and I found out that where exactly is your latencies, is happening. So yeah, you don't have to use Tyke, but try using OpenTelemetry. You will save your life. All right, so I think that's it. Okay, so let me make it better. So this is you can scan it. You'll get a 5-week free trial for Tyke Cloud. Tyke Cloud is based in 6 different regions. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. So it is in US, in UK, and Frankfurt, in Singapore, in Australia. So we have all these regions. Obviously, you can use the Singapore region. And this is a fully managed API platform, which means that you don't have to run anything on your local laptop or desktop or machine. You can just use Tyke and just proxy back to your API if you want to test that out. Yeah, you get a 5-week trial. Any questions, folks? Thanks for listening calmly, and I saw some smiles, but yeah, but thanks for being, and thanks for coming in. And again, if you want to just hit me up, you can. I'm available in LinkedIn, so, but mostly you can hit me up on Twitter. So that's it, folks. And thanks a lot, and thanks for inviting me. And yeah, thank you.